We'll be starting the meeting as soon as everybody is processed from the lobby. We have lots of members here, which is wonderful, but I don't want to start the meeting until everybody has found a seat. Thank you. Thank you. Name tags? Thank you. Thank you for your patience while we wait for everybody to go through the membership gate into the meeting. It's an important thing to do today because we have voting. Can somebody go outside and see if we're ready to start the meeting? See what if there's, you can't sit yet, Glenn. That's a good point. Thank you. There's still about 25 people in line, so we'll get started real soon. While we're waiting for the meeting to start, does anybody know what happened to the clock in Orchestra Hall? Does that mean I have free reign as to the length of the meeting?
Don't worry, it just went like this.
Where is the clock, Charles? everybody. At this time, I would like to call the meeting of the LPOA membership to order. Thank you for your patience. We're going to get started right away with the invocation. And Larry Kitsabeth is here. We know that we don't have a queue out there because you were processing folks, and now you're here. So
I'm not sure I'm all here, but I'm here.
You're here. We trust you. All right. Thank you, Larry Kitsabeth.
Good morning. I'd like for you to close your eyes and visualize where you are in this Lakeside Chautauqua. As we prepare for our meeting, hear these familiar words. Let us pray. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. The birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. He shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass, I hear him pass. He speaks to me everywhere. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me ne'er forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. Why should my heart be sad? The Lord is King. Let the heavens ring. God reigns. Let earth be glad. We ask, dear Lord, that in your reign and in our current meeting, you guide our thoughts, our words, and our responsibilities as property owners in this beautiful place that we call Lakeside. This is my Father's world. And the people say, amen.
Thank you, Larry. At this moment, I'd like to have the members of the LPOA Executive Committee stand and be recognized. Over here on the far end, we have Ross Brown, the Vice President. He did an amazing job filling in for me while I was in Europe for 3 months. Next, we have Ron Yonke. He's the chair of the Community Relations Committee. After that, we have Connie Roop, our secretary, Glenn Becker, a director, Dwight King, a director, Tom Ramsdell, sorry, I'm still using my German A's. Tom Ramsdell is our treasurer. Thank you very much for your service. At this time, I'd like to recognize the candidates for the director position that we'll be voting on today. I know some of you wanted to drop your ballot and leave, but we felt it was, as the executive committee, felt it was proper procedure to introduce the candidates to you in person before you drop your ballots into the box. So at this time, we'll do that. We will take the ballot box from here to the lobby, where it will be managed by Carol Robertson, who is our Sergeant at Arms, will be in charge of managing the ballot box throughout the meeting. You can drop your ballot there anytime during the meeting or after the meeting. The votes will be counted after the meeting has completed, and we'll let you know the results of the ballot by email after the meeting has been finished. So the first, we have 4 candidates for the director position. The first candidate in alphabetical order is Carolyn Kaner Fleischer. Carolyn, would you like to please stand and be recognized? And this is what Carolyn tells us about herself. She says this: I began coming to Lakeside in 1964 with my family and my extended family. When the symphony was established, 2 of my aunts played. We rented for years until my parents purchased their cottage in 1986. I've had many jobs at Lakeside, including writing for the newspaper, lifeguard, waterfront director, shuttle driver, and shuffleboard crew. I also served 2 terms on the Lakeside board and was the treasurer for the Lakeside Women's Club for a number of years. We purchased our cottage in 1997 and have spent nearly every summer in Lakeside since. Our daughters, Katie and Maddie, worked at the shuffleboard courts as teenagers and now visit as often as they can. My husband and I recently decided to remodel our cottage so that we can spend more time here. We are both deeply committed to Lakeside and want to be involved in ensuring a positive future for our children. Carolyn, I've got a question for you. Are you familiar with the mission statement of the LPOA and the organizational bylaws? Thank you. She said yes. In alphabetical order, the second candidate is Roger Gilchrist, 602 East 2nd Street. Hi, Roger. Roger Gilchrist says this: I've been coming to Lakeside since I was a small boy. My wife Patty and I grew up in Doylestown, Ohio, in Wayne County. My family began coming to Lakeside in the 1960s, and my parents purchased our family's cottage at 2nd and Peach in 1974. I attended the College of Worcester and obtained a bachelor's degree in chemistry. I later graduated from the University of San Diego Law School and subsequently completed a master's degree in chemistry at the University of Cincinnati. I've been in the private practice of law in the field of intellectual property for 40 years, with a focus on obtaining patents and trademark and copyright registrations and advising on corporate intellectual property strategy. I continue to practice and consult in the fields of intellectual property licensing and technology development and commercialization. So I believe my strong suit is finding innovative solutions to some of the challenges Lakeside is facing as to its physical plant and grounds, as well as ways to market Lakeside and develop ways to increase income to the community. Patty and I have been married for 35 years, and we have 3 adult children, Tyler, Evan, and Lauren. Tyler and our daughter-in-law, Courtney, gave us our first grandson, Wyatt, in April of this year. Our children enjoy all of the Lakeside activities, including golf, sailing, and bicycling, and they enjoy the music performances. The 4th of July celebration and parade have become a family tradition. Our principal interest in Lakeside remains its Chautauqua mission and in the discipleship of the gospel for all ages. Like many other Lakesiders, we enjoy the beauty of the Lakeside grounds, that of the architectural styles of the cottages, and its cultural place in Ohio's history. As we've had more time to enjoy Lakeside, we have also met so many Lakesiders and have been pleased to learn of how they came to Lakeside and now how they have continued its traditions. Roger, are you familiar with the mission statement of the LPOA and of the bylaws of this organization? Thank you. In alphabetical order, the third candidate is Brett Johnson, 648 Jasmine Avenue. And Brett says this: this year my family is celebrating our 25th summer of having a cottage in Lakeside. We began vacationing in Lakeside after experiencing the East Ohio Annual Conference, and like so many, fell in love with the sense of community, family, friendly traditions, and the calm that it brings to a busy life. Through our years in Lakeside, I've had the opportunity to serve in many different areas. My volunteer work includes serving as president of the Friends of the Hotel Lakeside, organizing Sunday programs for the Lakeside Heritage Society and serving on its board, developing children's programming for the Lakeside Wooden Boat Society, and supporting my wife Becky in her commitments with the Lakeside Women's Club. Because of these volunteer projects, I've grown to know and work along many Lakesiders. For the last 18 years, I've worked in Lakeside in several capacities. I served as recreation manager for 3 years, facilitated Vespers for a summer, worked with the children building pond boats, and for the last 5 years, supervised the Underground Teen Center and implemented programs for teens and college-age Lakesiders. I'm a recently retired elementary school teacher. I am an active member of our local Methodist Church, serve as PTA president, and serve as a trustee on the Scholarship Foundation in our school system. We are parents of a college-age sophomore named Gracie, who has experienced the support of the Lakeside community since she first came to Lakeside at age 2 weeks old. We are grateful every day for the privilege of having Lakeside in our lives. Brett, I ask you, are you familiar with the mission statement of the LPOA and of the bylaws of this organization? Thank you. And the fourth candidate in alphabetical order is Tom Nutter, 220 Peach Avenue. Hi, Tom. Tom Nutter is a fourth-generation Lakesider. His great-grandfather and family camped in Perry Park in 1890 and built a cottage in about 1906. Tom is a graduate of Denison University with a degree in economics. He lives in Columbus and on Peach Avenue here in Lakeside. Tom spent most of his career in the software business, helping out large business and healthcare organizations. He was a member in a previous Lakeside Capital fundraising campaign. Based on his previous 8-year experience on the Lakeside Association Board, he is very interested in continuing to raise the importance of property owners' preferences in the decision-making in Lakeside. Tom, are you familiar with the mission statement of the LPOA and of the organizational bylaws? Thank you. So now we have the ballot box. The ballot box is going to make its way out into the lobby and will be managed by Carol Robertson there during the course of the meeting. Those of you who need to leave early may submit your ballot at any time. The ballots will be accepted until the adjournment of the meeting today, at which time the ballots will be counted, and we will announce the winning candidate by email after the meeting. Thank you for your faithfulness in voting. We really appreciate it. Now we have committee reports. The primary committee report today is the social committee. Do I have a member of the social committee to come forward with the committee report? Yes, Tracy Richards, thank you. And just so you know, Tracy, the activity of the social committee was approved this morning by the executive committee, and we're looking forward to another quiet season at Lakeside.
The quiet season. It's upon us, as I wrote on Facebook yesterday. We like it better than the off season, right? Last year we had 99 events. We couldn't quite break 100, and we had over 1,000 people attend these events throughout the course of that quiet season months from September to May. And what was great about these events is that these events helped develop community that spilled over into the active season, which is what we're in right now. So last June, May or June, we all got together and we talked about what if this year we did this again. And we developed a calendar of events, and as Mary Ann just reported, it was approved. So beginning the week of September 9th, we will be reconvening at the LPOA Clubhouse, also known as Poolside, once Lago, to have these events. The events include things like Rummy Cube and Euchre, which was wildly popular last year. It's going to be back. Things like lunches out and Sunday socials. This year we're also including 2 field trips out to the Garfield House and the Hayes House. We're doing both of those things. That kind of came out of book club, actually, because yes, there is a book club. So with that said, everybody's invited. You are part of Lakeside, you are Lakeside, and whether you're a 6-monther, a year-rounder, a 2-monther, a 2-weeker, or just a homeowner that leases out your place, if you're up here and there's an event, you are welcome to attend. It's open for everybody. The calendar is going to be available at a limited number, I believe, at the administration office. It's also going to be posted on Lakeside 365 on Facebook. And Mary Ann has agreed to send out a newsletter from LPOA that carries the calendar as well. So be sure to check those out, be sure to print them, be sure to come. And one last thing, the week of September 9th, we're planning a lunch out at the Orchard Farm Stand. There's a sign-up sheet on the table right back in the back here. And if you'd like to sign up and go to lunch with your neighbors, please do. We'd love to have you. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. it's an amazing committee. It's an amazing offering for property owners and their friends. So we're happy and to be offering that for a second year. And a special thanks to Charles and the administration who makes it possible for us to use Poolside. We really appreciate it. And I skipped by the treasurer's report. I'm so sorry, but it's your turn. Tom Ramsdell, our treasurer, will present the treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a... If you recall, last month I had mentioned that the majority of our financial work takes place in the first quarter of the year. So you are going to see that there is not a whole lot of activity financially. You'll see we took in an income of $735. Why are we taking in income right now? Basically because we have new homeowners that are paying their dues. We have a few people that sent in their renewal cards but forgot to include a check, and I appreciate them following through. We had a couple advertisers that thought they had paid and they didn't, but we followed through with them and collected it. So we did have $735 of income. Our only expense was a monthly expense that we pay to MailChimp so that we can send out our emails. So right now we have a budget of a balance of $18,253. Frankly, I don't anticipate receiving a whole lot more income by the end of the year. I anticipate expenses to be somewhere around $4,000, so I'm anticipating that we will end the year at around $14,000, at which time we'll be able to make some donations and have enough left over to go into the start of the next year. Are there any questions on the financial statement? Okay, thank you.
Along with that, I'm going to give a brief update about the status of our website research. That research was formerly coming out of the Community Relations Committee. The main person who was doing the research for that project has had a family situation and needed to resign from that committee. The website project was kind of in limbo for a while, just until recently, in the last week or so, we've had a new opportunity to advance our research in quite a dramatic way. Hopefully I'll be able to give you an update on a new website for LPOA at the October meeting and what that may mean for us in terms of needing to, whether we need to increase our dues. I think I mentioned that back in April. If we need to increase our dues in order to pay for a website, it will not be by very much. Our dues are very low in the first place, but just wait for that update to come in October. We're still working on it. Now the Lakeside Association Board report. I'm happy to give this report myself today and report the good news that for the first time ever, I think, the Lakeside Association Board conducted its meeting in a public venue here at Orchestra Hall last Friday. And in my opinion, it was the right thing to do. It was a good thing to do. And we had an opportunity to do our business as we always do. The board meeting for me didn't feel any different than any other board meeting that I've attended, and to me it was a really good success. As you know, during that meeting, our president CEO Charles Allen made a recommendation to the board that the new community authority not proceed. And the vote by the association board was unanimous in support of that recommendation by Charles. So the NCA is in our past. We researched it, we talked about it over the summer, we agonized over it, and we voted on it. And I believe that it was the right vote for so many reasons, and also it was based on your responses to the questionnaire about the NCA that were so incredibly valuable, not just whether to proceed or not, but your suggestions about how to go forward in the absence of an NCA were extremely helpful, and that document will continue to be used and evaluated into the future as we go forward. I hear a lot from this organization's members, and it also came out in the answers to that questionnaire that we have no voice and we have no vote. I want to remind you that what you just did this morning contributed to your voice and your vote. You have me. You elected me, and I sit on the board. So you have elected one member. You also have another vote, and that is the elected rep to the LCOA, to the association board from the LPOA. So that's 2 votes. And now, as you'll see later when we talk about the red line version of the bylaws, the LPOA has written into the red line another rep, an additional rep to the Lakeside Association Board, and the Lakeside Association Board is agreeable and willing to add that 3rd elected seat onto the association board. That's something that we shouldn't take that lightly. There are about 20 people on the association board. We have 3 votes. There are at least 3 other people on the board who are appointed outside of the association. We have the East Ohio appointee, the West Ohio appointee, and we have the pastor of the Lakeside Methodist Church. So now we have 6 members of the association board who are not appointed internally, and no one on the association board should be glummed together as they, because we all come from different places. You have an elected voice, and that's why it's so important to vote at an LPOA election. It means a lot. Last week, when we were having our pre-board meeting coffee chat over in the Igler room, someone came up to me and said, there's something happening over at Orchestra Hall. There's something happening. And I was worried. I left that event and I came over here to talk to my members. I wanted to talk and find out what is happening. This is not something that I had suggested to be planned. This is not something the executive committee was privy to. This is something that happened organically among the membership that was making me very worried that we were going to blow our opportunity to ever have an open board meeting again. I asked a person to talk to me, and that person said, I'm not talking to you because I don't trust you. And I said, you don't trust me? Me? You are a member of the board, and I don't trust the board, and therefore I don't trust you. That kind of thinking needs to stop. Our organization is bigger than that kind of thinking. If there is a beef about a particular board member, take it to that board member. If there is a board member you don't trust, go to that person. And those of you who are Bible readers know that that is what Jesus told us to do. That is the first line to correct any wrong, is to go to the person. Luckily, I don't have a thin skin, and I didn't take it personally, but it cut very deeply. And I'm going to ask you all to really be respectful of the people who are doing a very hard thing for the benefit not only of the LPOA, but the Lakeside Association and Lakeside Chautauqua. At the end of the board meeting, there was a questionnaire a paper questionnaire that was presented by the board to ask for your input. It looks like this. It's dated August 2nd. There were about 25 responses. As I said, there weren't that many people who attended the meeting, so we didn't receive very many responses on that day. But now, a week later, you have an opportunity again to answer some questions and let the board of directors know your thoughts about these issues. This is a form of dialogue, and please don't discount the value of a written response. LPOA has implemented a feedback form that we make sure we answer every feedback form. We put out the questionnaire after we knew it was the right time to do so. We received 87 pages of responses. Questionnaires are important. They are dialogue. It is a back and forth, and it helps the Lakeside Association Board be better, and that's what we want. The Lakeside Association Board to be as good as it can be, just like the LPOA is trying to be as good as we can be. So please, take a minute. As you go out today, fill out a questionnaire. Where do these feedback forms go? To the association office? Is that a good place to take them? Doug says yes? Okay, we'll do that. Let's see. I know today I've been encouraging the Lakeside Association property owners to be present at LPOA meetings. They are board members, but they're also property owners. And we want to be welcoming to every single property owner. And a board member shouldn't be worried about coming to an LPOA meeting if they're a property owner. So I welcome board members. I encourage the attendance of all LPOA board members. And I'd like to recognize the board members who are here at the LPOA meeting today because they're property owners. Please stand. Thank you very much. All right. You're in charge of clicking the button, Glenn. At this point in the meeting, we have a happy moment. I'm going to invite Dale Noble to come forward and present the Historic Preservation Design Review Board Awards. Dale, please come forward.
Slide. Clicker. Clicker. I need a lot of technical support. The whole crew is coming here. Yeah. Lakeside is getting older even while we stand here. All those buildings.
Me too. I think we're in. Here, I'll sit.
Thank
Right,
you. Right clicker. Thanks to Marianne for making a few minutes available to the Historic Preservation Design Review Board. As you know, HPDRB is a volunteer organization responsible to the Lakeside Board of Directors. Many of you have served on the HPDRB over the years. There are former chair people out there. Right now, the board consists of myself, Dan Buckey, Jim Meyer, Rose Dostal, Lindsay Jones, and advisory member Chuck Baker. And our charge is to not enforce, wrong word. It is to enforce. To apply and to work with property owners to apply the Lakeside rules as they relate to historic preservation and the character, ambience, neighborliness, and livability of the Lakeside community. Part of our way of doing that is by trying to advertise what we think are successful efforts to preserve and restore and sometimes to build anew in Lakeside. We do that through these design review awards. They vary in number from year to year. We do three things. One is we announce them here and make awards to those property owners who are here to receive them. Secondly, there'll be an article in the Lakesider which will describe them. And then finally, there are yard signs that go in front of those properties, and you have an opportunity as all passersby to see who's received the award. We do the awards for two reasons. One, to compliment, recognize, cheer on those who have made special efforts to preserve their properties in a way that promotes, again, the character and ambiance of Lakeside. But also we do so to encourage others to follow in their example. And so I've put a few slides up here today. Let me just go through. This year there are 4 awards. The first one is one of the Ron Leffler Awards, recognizing the late Ron Leffler. It's an award for preservation and maintenance using original materials. The first award goes to Sally Leffler. Sally Lenhart, the Leffler Award, is recognized for her success in preserving a historic cottage at 331 Central. The renovation included removing deteriorating wood porch pillars, arches, and railings, replacing with hand-built wood decorative architectural pieces that mimic the original architectural elements and restore the porch to its original historic look. The homeowner painted the porch elements herself to ensure the original look of the cottage was maintained. The success of these preservation efforts ensure that this cottage lives on to contribute to the ambience of Lakeside in the 21st century. Before, during, after, looks the same. Sally, are you here today? Sally, there she is. Sally, on behalf of the board, but on behalf of Lakesiders more generally, thank you and congratulations. Thanks, Sally. Oh. The second award goes to Jim Beardsley, owner, and Tim Walsh, manager. They are recognized for their success in preserving the historic front double doors of the Lakeside Pizzeria, 218 West 2nd Street. To meet fire code, the front doors had to be renovated or replaced. They formally opened in, they need to open out. To meet the fire code, the front doors needed to be renovated or replaced. The fire code requires doors to swing outward in the direction of egress. Instead of replacing the doors, which would have been easy, they were re-engineered to meet code and restored to their original historic look, better than their recent look with the air conditioner hanging out above them. The success of this preservation activity will make this significant contributor to Lakeside live on in the 21st century. Old doors, new doors, they look alike but better, but it's the old doors. I think Tim Walsh is here to receive the award. Tim? Tim, again, on behalf of Lakeside and Lakesiders, thank you for your efforts.
Thank you for the welcome.
The next award is for cottage renovation. Goes to May and Michelle Drage and Reverend Andrea Davis. They're recognized for their restoration of 562 Walnut. The cottage was renovated following significant water damage over the winter. Renovation included lifting the structure to install a new foundation and crawl space, additions to the rear that included garage, removal and replacement of the roof with matching materials, replacing the doors with the same as existing, and preserving the front porch facade within the setback. After extensive renovation, key design elements of the original cottage were retained, and once again, it looks like itself, though it was thoroughly renovated. I think that May Drage is here today to receive the award. May, congratulations and thank you. Yeah. One of the touchstones of the HPDRB's work is we ask, will a cottage still look like itself after a major or a minor renovation? And here's a good example. You could go away for the winter and come back and think nothing has changed, but a lot has changed with this cottage. But it looks like it always has, a significant historical contributor to Lakeside. The last award is for landscaping. This year it goes to Todd and Bridge Baumgartner. They're recognized for their landscaping at 710 Jasmine, the Upper Jasmine Edition. Their landscape plan included the installation of permeable pavers, a shed, steps, and numerous plantings along a steep grade. The landscape plan makes resourceful use of a change in elevation between the house and the nature path and beautifies an overgrown area along the walking path that needed attention. Are the Baumgartners here to receive their award, please? Thank you. If you haven't taken the path, you should do this just to see the landscaping. Thank you, guys. Marianne, that concludes our awards. And thanks to all at Lakeside who try to contribute. Again, it's not just aesthetics. It's about how we relate to one another, the neighborliness of the community, the character of the community, and lives in its built environment. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dale, and thanks for all the good and sometimes difficult work you do, often difficult work you do with the HPDRB. One item I neglected to add to the agenda, it was an oversight on my part, is recognizing the new members in the group today. Do we have any new members to welcome this morning? No, not this morning? Okay, we'll go forward with the agenda. Now we have the CEO update from Charles Allen. Happy to say he's here today without a mask. He was exposed to COVID earlier this week, and he's good to go. So here's Charles.
Good morning, everyone. So good to see you all, and it's always an honor to serve Lakeside. First of all, I want to say thank you all for a wonderful season. It's been, I don't know where the summer went, but it's gone by really fast, but we got a few things done, and I'm happy to have made the recommendation that we made with the NCA, and I'm extremely happy that the board unanimously accepted that recommendation. So the question is where do we go from here? And that is where we will need all of you, your help, your expertise, your time, your talent, and your treasures to help us move forward in a positive way. I know that there has been in the past people who said, well, Lakeside is not financially responsible. One of my goals as being here is to ensure that we have good financial stewardship. And with that, our team is working very hard to ensure that we are doing what we say we will do. If there is something that you was expecting to be done that didn't get done, I'm creating my list of things we need to course correct on and reprioritize. And that's what we're going to be doing, is reprioritizing, course correcting where we need to course correct, but ultimately ensuring that every dollar that you donate is going to where it's supposed to go to, and moving the mission forward, because that's ultimately what's most important and why we're all here. Because we could be anywhere else in the world, but I just believe that God has placed us here to serve this mission and to advance this mission. And so the mission is what's important. And the mission will always, always outweigh personal preferences and opinions. We have to go back to what's best for Lakeside and what's going to be best to move the mission forward. And that's what we are designed to do. So I want to remind you all and invite you all to next weekend, the 17th, we're having our financial forum. That financial forum, we will go over a variety of things as it relates to our finances. It is our commitment to transparency and bringing forth what we can in order for you to understand how Lakeside works, where we are financially, how we're doing financially, and what is some future plans as we move forward. And so we'll be there. So some of the things that you'll learn next week is our attendance trends, how our liquidity is doing to date. And then also our strong budget performances, because we have been performing extremely well over the last few years, not exceeding our budget, presenting a balanced budget, and utilizing funds correctly. And so you'll have an update as it relates to our debt. And so forth. And so we'll talk about also the contributions, our revenue sources, as well as some capital projects. One of those capital projects we want to give you an update on is also right here in Orchestra Hall. As you know, we did get the restroom construction delayed, but that is due to start in the fall. And so the restrooms will be done ADA compliant, and then the rest of the movie equipment will be in. So new screen, new sound projection for the movies. The projector is in, which is why we have such a great quality for both movies as well as presentations. And so those things are in. All the technical side have been ordered, and the order is placed. It's a matter of install. And so all of that work will start in the fall, and we have a few more updates we would like to do as time goes on, one of which we want to make sure Mary Ann has a clock back there again. So, but that is, that's we just want to give you those updates. One of our other goals is to bring stability to the organization. We're not going to ignore the fact that we've had turnover in our leadership positions, turnover in the board leadership as well. But I am extremely confident that our current board and our current board leadership is 100% serving Lakeside for its best future and its stability in the current. And I am 100% confident that this board will continue to work with me and my team as we present the ideas, charter the course for this organization, and move forward. I know some people will say we don't want Lakeside to change. We don't want Lakeside to change, but I do want Lakeside to get more efficient and better and how we do things. And so that may mean some slight changes without losing who we are and the essence of who we are. This week I had the awesome opportunity of going to the campus of Chautauqua Institute, which most of you refer as the mothership or the whatever. You know, it's nice, but I wasn't impressed as it stands up against Lakeside. And my goal is not to become a Chautauqua, New York. Our goal is to put a stamp on this peninsula and let people know what Lakeside's about and what Lakeside Chautauqua is really about. Because what we stand for is vastly different than where the other Chautauquas, some of the other Chautauquas are going. And I don't want to lose our essence. Our founding pillar is our religious pillar. That was here before anything else. And that is what's going to uphold us and keep us. I was saying to someone in a meeting the other day that the pulpit is not a place for political persuasion. And one of the things that we have to understand is that our faith will inform our life. It informs how I respond to my culture. My faith informs me how I respond to world events and various things around me. It should not be the other way around. My political persuasion should not inform my faith. And so, therefore, there are some things we have to get back to from a balanced perspective, and that is a goal to bring stability back to Lakeside. Because although dialogue and differences of opinion should be discussed, and we should be bringing various things to this space for us to discuss those things, the gospel is not one of those things that is debatable. What is debatable are those political things and are those other things. And so we want to bring stability back to all levels of programming so that no one feels that they have to choose or feel like they're in a political debate when they hear the gospel or when they sit in a lecture or when they come to a programming. It's not us against them. It is for us to hear each other, understand each other, and then respond in the best way moving forward. The line in our mission statement, fostering traditional Christian values, is not a line to exclude anybody. That line is to include everyone, because the phrase of WWJD, what would Jesus do? He would sit with people that was different from him. He would learn from them. He would talk to them, but he would also give them a way of living. And so for us moving forward, if there's any doubt in your mind where Lakeside is going, I'm letting you know now, we're moving towards stability and we're moving towards thriving community. And doing that is for us to sit together, learn together, dialogue together, understand how we can have differences of opinions, respect each other without being disagreeable. And we can disagree and still love each other. And so, and there's people that have come and sit down with me that are in the room today that we didn't agree on various things, but we wasn't disagreeable and we remained friends. You're not going to like the way every project goes, but I can explain to you why we made the decisions that we made. And so, and my door is open. I put my cell number on all the business cards. You can call me anytime. Well, not anytime, but you know, there may be a limit. My wife may have something to say about, you know, midnight phone calls, but for the most part, you can call me. I'll answer any questions and meet you where you are and whatever we need to do to move forward. But it goes back to, we need every Lakesider, whether you come here for a day, half day, or you're here all year round. We need every Lakesider to step up to the plate and lend us your time, talent, and treasures. We need every Lakesider to make a commitment of sitting on your neighbors' porches and helping them understand the value of this mission, the importance of this mission, because it is this mission that God has placed here in this place that I believe will not only change the lives of people that are coming here, but it will be and will continue to be a place for people in the world to look at and say, where can I go and escape the chaos? Where can I go and feel free enough to allow my children to roam and be who they are and gain independence? Because if we're not fostering anything else, we're definitely fostering independence in our children. Because where else can you go and find a 2-year-old walking his bike in a diaper, t-shirt, and a helmet other than Lakeside? Where else can you go and see a 10-year-old going into Maryland's, making a choice between a candy wall, a smoothie, and ice cream later? It is building a character and independence that we can allow our children to be free, to be children, but also learn how to make choices and decisions. And that is part of the mission of Lakeside. And so we want to make sure that is maintained for generations to come. So see Gretchen and Amy, who are out front as well. Ask them how I can become part of every porch, every Lakesider. Where's areas that I can give my time? What task force can I lend my talents to? And most importantly, or just as importantly, I should say, what are areas I can give my treasures to? How can I leave a legacy gift? How can I make sure that we meet our budget through the impact fund? How can I ensure that projects are moving forward? And what projects do you need my attention in even more so? And I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your vote of confidence. Thank you for your trust. And thank you for helping us serve this mission.
Charles, I love to hear you talk, and I love having you here at our LPOA meetings to talk to us on such a human level. I just really appreciate your words. Thank you. Just writing on the back, it's a hard act to follow, I know. I don't know when it was, at some recent meeting, I think it was Gretchen Cologne who mentioned that we have a low percentage of property owners who are participating in the annual giving campaigns. I'd like to encourage everyone, myself included, to participate in the campaign. I'd like to see us show a sign of support for the mission of Lakeside. And I'd like to see that below 1/3 participation grow. If you feel it in your heart to extend trust that these dollars are important, then please express your trust this year with a check. Lakeside's future depends on people like you and me. And Rich and I plan on changing our ideas about how freely we give to the better. So, okay, now we have the presentation of the proposed amendments to the LPOA bylaws. According to Robert's rules, there's a certain procedure that is required to be followed for bylaws to be revised or amended. The difference between revision and amendment is something I'll explain just real briefly. A revision of bylaws means that we're going to take the body of work that's in the bylaws and we're going to completely rewrite it. That is not what we've done here. What we've done is we have taken the current bylaws and we have made proposals for certain amendments in certain sections. We are required to let you know that these bylaws are in the process of being amended, and we were required to give you the bylaws to look at because of the way our organization is, the way we conduct business. It's in our bylaws that is what we do. So you received in an email the red line version of the LPOA bylaws. If you did not receive them, that means your email for some reason has been rejected by MailChimp. So let me know and we can make a change to that, and I can make sure you receive a copy of the red line. The red line bylaws at some point need to be voted on as a collected work. We are not going to vote line by line on which bylaws to accept and which amendments to accept and which ones to reject. At the October meeting, we will vote whether to approve the proposed bylaw amendments. That requires a 2/3 majority vote. The reason we're talking about the bylaws today is to get an idea of where we are with the proposed amendments and if there is a major thing that needs to be fixed in order for the red line version to become approved. So today we're not going to debate necessarily what should be taken out, what should stay in, or we're going to talk about where are we? Are we on the right track? And so that's where the Q&A is going to be focused on. So at this point, at this time, I'll take Q&As about the bylaws, and at the end of that, we'll also talk about any other Q&A that we need to talk about. Sure. Question, Richard. Do we have microphones, please? Do we have a runner? Thank you, Larry. Richard, do you have a question about the bylaw red line or a comment?
Richard on 401 Maple. I took a quick look at them just last night. We were offline. But in reading through them, there are some questions and concerns that prompted my comments. Mm-hmm. A number of questions. Now the requirement would be the president, a person running for president of the LPOA must have served previously on the executive committee. That's a new requirement.
That's a new item in the red line version, yes.
Yeah, that was not the case previously. That would preclude anyone running for president of LPOA who had not previously been a member of the executive committee or an officer of LPOA. There is no term limit for president. There's term limits, two terms, and then you have to sit out another term if you're any other officer. But for the president, there are no term limits, meaning the president could serve into perpetuity. The LPOA representative to the board, Lakeside Association board, the wording is incorrect because it refers to a September meeting of the Lakeside board, and that meeting is in November. It means that the person we elect, currently Elizabeth Irwin, if that person is rejected by the board, we vote in August for that representative. If the board declines to accept that member at the November meeting, would mean we'd go a whole year without a representative on the board, which raises for me something that's always been problematic. Why should the Lakeside Board have veto power over a representative that the LPOA has elected? If we elect someone to represent us on the Lakeside Board, now it's one person, Elizabeth Irwin, potentially two. And I noticed until 2006, we actually had 3 representatives elected on the full board. My question for your consideration is, why should the board then have veto power, leaving us with no representative until we go through the election cycle a year later? I'd also like to raise, and I'm sorry, this is sensitive, but I think it's accurate, that our representative, Elizabeth Irwin, missed the February Lakeside Board meeting, missed the May 18 LPOA meeting, so she was not able to report on the May 17 board meeting until July LPOA meeting. She made a few brief comments about that, but at the full board meeting held last Friday, our representative made no comments whatsoever on the NCA, whereas, to my recollection, almost every other board member had very substantive comments, and Elizabeth Irwin made no comments whatsoever, pro, con, or otherwise, about the NCA, which I think is the most critical issue facing property owners in the past years. On indemnification of LPA executive committee and directors, the provision in the existing bylaws requires that if there be a settlement, for example, a sex discrimination claim against an officer of the LPOA is committed to indemnify that officer or offender, alleged offender, unless there's a settlement. Currently, if there's a settlement of the claim, then the board must approve that settlement. So if you have a sex discrimination claim and there's a settlement of $100,000 or $50,000, the board, LPOA board, must approve that settlement. Otherwise, there's no indemnification. That clause has been removed, meaning essentially there's a blanket, unqualified indemnification of any officer of the LPOA. The qualifying clause says unless a court or administrative board determines that the offending person did not act in the best interest of the LPOA. That is a meaningless clause. No court ever rules on whether or not a person was acting in good faith for the LPOA. It's not a court or admitted. It could be gross negligence. That's the typical language, that unless the person is deemed to have committed gross negligence, no administrative body or court ever makes a determination of good faith or bad faith. So my point is, under the current revised bylaws, there's unqualified indemnification by the LPOA of any officer or board member accused of malfeasance. So, and also we're out of sync now. If the board is if the Lakeside Board has approved a second representative to the board, today we're not electing that second person, unfortunately. So even if the space will go unoccupied for a year, the second elected representative to the board. So we're missing that opportunity. I also, while I have the microphone.
Okay, we're gonna ask you to conclude your comments so that other people can make comments as well.
Okay, I mentioned these things, particularly the requirement that the president must have previously served on the executive committee or as an officer of LPOA. as those of us who attended the full board meeting last week, the NCA was probably the most divisive issue.
Today we're talking, at this moment,
I'm
Richard?
talking about whether or not
I have a point of order. Right now, we are conducting Q&A about the red line version of the LPOA bylaws. We're not talking about NCA. Thank you.
my point about the president the requirement that the president must have served previously is a problematic, because the existing executive committee that let that NCA go as far as it did,
We are not talking about the NCA, sir. I'm going to ask you to sit down if you continue.
I will, as soon as I make clear that in order to elect a new president, it has to be somebody who was a part of that same board who allowed the NCA to almost get finalized. We need fresh perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comment. A couple points of clarification. The language about the president or vice president must be a resident of Ottawa County has been removed because it seemed to the bylaws committee that it was too restrictive. It didn't allow enough people to become a candidate for president of the LPOA or vice president. We did recognize the need to be responsible for who we nominate for president and vice president, someone who needs to be knowledgeable about our own organization. So the language about the president needs to have had previous experience serving on the Lakeside Property Owners Association Executive Committee. This is not a requirement that they have previously served on the Lakeside Board. Our organization is not connected in that way with the Lakeside Board. So this requirement would give us some protection about who we nominate as president, but it also assures us that the person that is nominated into those positions has a good understanding and some institutional knowledge about the organization, and that's why it was put there, just as a note of clarification. The other thing I'd like to clarify is an issue that I already know is incorrect. The bylaws committee and the executive committee already know that it needs to be fixed. It was an error and oversight. It was in the our existing bylaws, that the representative, the LPOA rep to the Lakeside Board, is approved at the September meeting of the board. And you're correct, there is no September meeting of the board. I've already been in communication with the governance committee of the association board and with Jane Marks, the association president. We know the language is incorrect and it needs to be corrected. You'll find in the bylaws a new provision that the president of LPOA may appoint a person to fill an open seat in the executive committee. If we approve these bylaws, what that will mean is that now we have an open position, and it will allow us to appoint, it will allow me to appoint a representative to the board, have that appointee be approved by the LPOA Executive Committee, and have that candidate be nominated, be approved by the Lakeside Board as soon as possible. So if everything is in place, we wouldn't have to wait until April 2026 to have that additional LPOA rep start serving. After that, after this first appointment, then the election cycle will be the same. The candidates are nominated. We took away the provision to have only that position be nominated from the floor. It's going to have a more traditional nomination, just like the director candidates that we had this morning, the nomination of all the trustees or the directors, and they'll be voted on at the August meeting as they always have been. As far as indemnification, I'm out of my depth, and I don't know if Tom, if you have something to say about the indemnification now, or that's something that we can talk to Richard about in depth later about his particular concern.
Well, we just have to get the wording correct.
We need your microphone.
So the reason for the, is it working? Okay. So the reason for the indemnification is,
Good.
the reason for the indemnification is the fact that our directors and officers liability insurance carrier requested it. Now, it might need to be amended a little bit. Again, I'm not an attorney, but we do need an indemnification clause that basically states that if the director is acting on behalf of the organization, that we agree to indemnify them so that our D&O carrier can also pay accordingly. So that's what we got to work around, and if it needs to be tweaked a little bit, so be it. We'll have to have an attorney do that for us, I guess. So, but that's the reason for the indemnification clause.
Thank you, Tom. Finally, the issue about term limits for president. I happen to be in favor of what you said, Richard. I don't see any reason why the president should have any more reason to remain indefinitely than anybody else. So that's something we will ongoing. We'll see what the most LPOA members feel about most of the bylaws. That's just how it goes. And thank you for bringing up your comments. All right. Yes.
I'm
Yes, please. Whenever you speak, please give your name and your cottage
I guess.
and your cottage address, please. Your name and address.
I'm Becky Smith. We are at 229 Lynn Avenue. We also own 237 Lynn. I just have 3 areas. One, the amendment that would change the Robert's Rules of Order to optional. I just wonder, does that mean that you wouldn't, that you might not follow communication, governance, voting, discussion, things like that? That's a concern. Also, why go to the ranked choice voting as mandatory when so many states have repealed it? Most of school districts, councils that had it in place have repealed it also. It can be, concerns about that are the ability to have transparency, recounting, and auditing process. And then the amendment which would eliminate the standing committees and have it be at the president's options what committees would be formed. I think at a minimum, and I have experience with this, an organization did cancel that, and we had lapses in accountability in the finance area. So I think that eliminating a standing committee like finance or audit is not a good idea. So those are my.
Thank you. I'll speak to your standing committees first. It was recommended by our bylaws professional that the bylaws do a good job of giving us responsibility for appointing standing and special committees, but it doesn't nail us down to requiring such committees. If you look at the current bylaws, the standing committees are not, we're in violation of those bylaws right now because the LPOA is required by our current bylaws to have an audit committee, a finance committee, an island view committee, and what else, a membership committee, I think. Those are in our bylaws as standing committees. We only have one of those committees right now. And I don't even know why we need an audit committee in an organization of this size and with this budget. We don't have very much money. We spend it all down over the course of the year. We give away what we have left. So that's the reason why we decided, I can't see your face, but that's the reason why we decided to be a little bit more, to write in a little bit more flexibility. Every president, every executive committee has an idea of what committees are important for the organization at that point in time. When I became a member of the executive committee, there were no active committees at all. And now we have several. So that's why that language was changed. Your second point about ranked choice voting. Today is a really good example of why we need to have a ranked choice voting option in our bylaws. We have 4 really strong candidates. We have about 175 people here. There's a possibility that nobody, even if, there's a possibility that you could have a 4-way tie, and the main voter only has 45 votes. It's not very representative of the entire organization to have that many candidates and have a plurality vote. A plurality vote means you don't need a majority, you don't need 51%. You only need to be the person who got the most votes on that day. So in the case of, like we have today, we have 4 candidates. A preferential ranking vote would mean that, let's say, just for instance, we have 100 candidates, we have 4 candidates, and we have 100 people voting. And 3 candidates get 90 votes each, and 1 candidate receives 10 votes. What would happen is we eliminate the person who received 10 votes, and we look at those 10 votes and we say, who were these 10 people's second choice? And those votes are applied to that second choice, which increases the number of the first 3 candidates, and it creates a winner from there. This situation doesn't happen at every election. It only happens infrequently. And we believe it's the very best way to provide the best winner in a race with multiple candidates for the majority of the people who are voting. And that's why we put the RSV, the preferential voting in there. And your first point was? The Roberts Rules of Order. How many pages does the Roberts Rules of Order contain? Hundreds. It's a really, really clunky set of rules. It's really hard for a person like me to know everything, that every eventuality of every meeting, and to be exactly precise with Robert's rules. We need to be a little bit more flexible and reasonable and understanding in how we conduct especially our Q&A section of our meetings. Robert's Rules is very handy at important times, like approving our bylaws and voting and calling the meeting to order and adjourning the meeting, those very basic things. But what we're finding is that there's a tendency among people in our own audience who are very well versed in Robert's Rules. There is a tendency to start gaming that all the rules in Robert's Rules and to create an environment where we cannot communicate with each other anymore because we're not educated in every chapter and verse of Robert's Rules. I'm looking for a way that we can be reasonable in how we conduct our meetings, and we can have a good understanding of what order is without having to go chapter and verse with Robert's Rules. That's why that red line option is there. We defer to Robert's Rules when it's necessary. We're not saying it's only an option. We're saying when we need Robert's Rules, we will use Robert's Rules. And also, you'll find in the red line version that one of the president's duties is also to appoint a parliamentarian when necessary. I can't talk about what happened last week because we're talking about the red line, but when we get into the next Q&A, I'll have an example. Another question, please.
Good morning.
What's your name and cottage?
Yep, my name is, closer? Okay, I have to figure out how to do the mic and the book at the same time
Okay.
and talk. My name is Jerry Leibarger. I live at 530 Cedar. And first of all, I'd like to start out by saying thank you, Mary Ann, and the LPOA board for taking on the work of updating the bylaws. This is a great example of building trust and transparency into board actions. Your publication of these into a red line version, collecting comments, and weighing property owner input is much appreciated. Now, with that being said, of course, I do have some further suggestions. One is the voting process. Voting for our representatives seems to be limited to those who are able to attend this meeting. Many of us are still working and have family commitments and may not be able to come to this one particular meeting. I encourage the LPOA to find a way for all property owners to participate. There are approximately 900 cottages here, and to limit voting to only those who can attend this one particular meeting is not really representative of who we are. Secondly, I would add to the comments already made regarding striking committees from the bylaws. There is probably nothing more important, at least in my opinion, that the LPOA could do is to make sure that our assessment dollars are appropriately collected, allocated, spent, and reserved. I would like to see the LPOA add this committee back in with the goal of increasing transparency around how those dollars are used. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Regarding how to vote, it is an issue that the new technology in the world presents to the LPOA. Right now, we don't have a vehicle to vote remotely. It's been requested by many people that we pursue that. Right now, we are working on, as part of the website design, working on a secure part of the website that would allow remote voting. So just so we are not prepared to add that into our current bylaws because we don't have the vehicle. So part of the new red line version requires that the vice president review the bylaws every year and make recommendations for amendments. Look for that to happen in the future. We're not prepared to have remote voting yet. We don't have the mechanism in place. But just know that that's something that we're working on really hard. Striking committees, your voice is noted. Earlier this summer at the April meeting, I did share with you my intention to establish a finance committee, and that will happen at the October meeting or after the October meeting. I think it's important for LPOA to have a good financial relationship with Lakeside, and we need a good committee to do that work. And so whether it be a standing committee, to me it is not as important as at this time in our organization's history. We do need a financial committee, and that's the important thing. So the next, anybody else? Ed Brewster.
Hi, Mary Ann. Ed Brewster, 638 Central. Can you clarify for us the audit committee and the finance committee that we're talking about? Are they auditing and finance for the LPOA, or are they looking at auditing and financing of the board and the Lakeside Association numbers?
Okay, we will take a look at that.
Because I'm assuming that the audit committee and the finance committee of the LPOA is for our finances of the property owners and not board related.
Good question. The current bylaws say the finance committee shall prepare the budget of the LPOA and shall devise and execute plans for raising funds that may be necessary for the purposes of LPOA. The finance committee shall keep informed of the finances of the Lakeside Association and shall assist with the interpretation of said finances to property owners. That's the current language of the Finance Committee. The current language of the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee shall review the books of the LPOA annually and shall report same at the May meeting of LPOA. The Audit Committee shall prepare or cause to be prepared any tax returns required by any existing authority. So the Audit Committee is exclusive to the use of the LPOA. We have always, in our past, we've had very good treasurers who do that very work without the use of a committee. I personally don't think that that particular committee would be of benefit to the organization because all those elements are already being performed in a very good way. The Finance Committee language is why I decided to set up a special Finance Committee. I think it's important to have dialogue between LPOA and Lakeside about finances. And so I'm looking forward to having that done. I still like the idea of having flexibility in the bylaws. A standing committee is different from a special committee. A standing committee requires a charter. A special committee does not require a charter, and it can come and go as is needed, depending on what the organization needs. A standing committee is much more serious in the way it is defined in the bylaws. There are a lot of rules, Robert's rules, about how a standing committee works. So, any other questions? Yes.
Nancy Walker-Gerbitz, 526 East 2nd Street. Article 8, Section F, I just want to comment that it says that the representative to the Lakeside Association Board of Directors will be able to share with property owners information from the Board of Directors meetings, and that what has been marked out is as needed.
That's right.
And so I'm glad that is added, because I think there have been a host of issues that we have learned the association has talked about, just like the NCA, and then we don't find out about it till years later. So I hope this means there will be greater communication from the property owners' representatives, what happens at the board meetings.
What it does mean, taking out that as-needed language, it does require the executive committee to report by way of our association, LPOA rep, to the board. It's not an option whether to report or not. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? So you have a good idea of the process of the bylaws. We have a good feeling for the bylaws in general. I would like to see some kind of feedback about, in general, as a document, what's your feeling about the changes overall in general that were made? Are they helpful to the organization? Are they necessary? Does anybody have feedback along those lines? So if we were to take a vote today, I have a pretty good feeling that we're on the right track, that when we vote in October, we're generally on the right track with the bylaws that govern our organization. Okay, we will move on to, will you have a comment about bylaws?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Linda Rettencutter, Kenton Row. I still, I want to refer to what Richard said on the board having to okay our person. I wish that would be taken out. I think it's the homeowner's decision as to who should go on the board. I think it should be that, and that alone. And if that person wouldn't be okayed in October, we'd go a whole year without that representative. I think that has to be looked at seriously.
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I don't know what to say to that suggestion. I've been on the board for 5 months. I've never known of a rep to the Lakeside Association board that has not been approved. So I understand the concern. it's valid. It's worth having the bylaws committee look at it and see why the language is there. Why has it always been there? And why have we never objected to it in the past? What is changing now? And what does our current LPOA membership feel about that provision? I'll get some feedback from the Lakeside Association Board about historical approvals in the past. I don't know that there's ever been a problem, and maybe it's something that we need to take a nice hard look at. So, yes, Shar.
Shar Wilkerson, 444 Sycamore. Just a clarification. So when we vote on these bylaws in October, it'll just be the people that are here?
2/3 of a quorum is what Robert's Rules requires. Yep. We haven't gone all around the room yet, Richard.
So I was thinking, I thought what was really helpful, Sarah Twitchell, sorry, Sarah Twitchell, 545 Central. I guess what was really helpful when we had the board meeting was that it was streamed. The board meeting. And I wondered if our having ongoing meetings would make it possible to do that. Because you could have people vote via Zoom call, right? You could have people, register whether they would support or not support.
During the live stream?
During a live stream.
I don't know how that works. Let me ask Mike Malakar. How does that work? When you have a live stream, is there an opportunity for participation? There is. Okay, hang on just a second.
The Lakeside organization uses Boxcast, so we can set up different plans, I guess, for different things. One is tickets, one is other options like that. Yeah, I believe that is the case. So the organization is already has it in place. It just has to be turned on and off as needed.
Okay, thank you for that. So I would recommend. Oh, Sarah? I'm sorry. Did you have more to say?
No.
About that?
I don't know that system, but
Yeah.
When I teach, so
Sure.
I teach online a lot, and there's ways to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm open to progress and evolution of our ability here at LPOA. Right now, we don't have the mechanisms in place. This particular version of bylaws, we're not going to be able to get it turned around so fast between August and October. We can't get that system in place and get everybody educated. Part of it is educating people how to use the new available mechanism. So I would hold with my current thinking that this current red line version is going to be voted on in October in the traditional way, and we will, in 1 year, evaluate whether we have the mechanisms in place to vote remotely, not only for the next bylaw amendments, but also for voting on members. I can't make a promise if we don't have the mechanism in place. Yeah. All right, Richard, you're next.
Sorry to prolong. So everyone knows we did have a recent situation where the foundation board unanimously voted to add a person, and the Lakeside Association board vetoed that nomination. So you'd mentioned you'd never seen where our elected representative, the LPOA's nominate or elected person to the board, has been rejected, and I think you're correct there. But just this past year, the full board vetoed the foundation's unanimous.
Yeah. In our situation, we have an elected, someone who we have elected as an organization. It's not an appointment to the board. It's an elected person. So that makes a little bit of a difference, which even asks the question even more seriously, do we really need What kind of mechanism do we need by the board? Do we really need to have that board approve that person who has already been elected by our own organization? That's a good point. So, yes, Dale.
Dale Noble, 724 East 6th Street. The rule is the rule of the association board. We're not going to be able to change that rule. We could recommend to the association, but it's a self-perpetuating not-for-profit board. That's how most not-for-profit boards work. University boards work that way. Even a Methodist bishop has to be approved by the association board before they can come onto it. So that's the association rule. We're not going to change that here. So there's just a kind of a point of order.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Anybody else have any comment, question, support, non-support of the red line version that will be voted on in October? Okay. We'll move on to general Q&A. Anybody have Q&A about any other thing? Sarah?
I was just going to ask Charles if we're going to be able to stream the meeting about the finances. That was so helpful when the board streamed.
Charles says they're working on it and they would like to stream it. If they can, it will definitely be recorded. Anybody else? Yes, George up here.
All I do is talk.
Your name and your cottage address, please, sir.
I'm George Douglas. I live at, where do I live? 169 Vine. As I understand it, when you get on the board, the great board, you sign a non-disclosure document. Mm-hmm. If you sign a non-disclosure document, how is it that you're going to be able to report to us what goes on?
My interpretation of the non-disclosure document is this. We do not disclose anything that happens in executive session. We are responsible to give the message of the association when we speak one-on-one to people. It's our responsibility to speak as a body, I don't have a problem telling you how I feel about an issue that has not yet been voted on. People want to know how I feel about, say, the NCA. I'm not going to sway anybody's opinion. I'm going to be respectful of the association's efforts to move forward with the NCA. And so that's what I did. We're doing everything we can. We're doing the education. You give all that boilerplate message because it's important to show solidarity with a board that is going to be making the big decision. And I don't want to wreck the board's ability to do a good job. I think the non-disclosure is an important part of any good board, that we can't just go off blowing our mouth about anything that happens around the board table. After the vote is taken, and the vote was taken in public, everybody knows how I voted. You can ask me why I voted the way I did, and I will tell you. Jane, do you have something you'd like to add to that? And am I on the right track in my thinking?
Thanks, Marianne, for the opportunity. I think you described it correctly, right? That once the board does vote, the board speaks with one voice to the community and in the community. But the confidentiality agreement that we ask our members to sign only obligates an individual board member to keep confidential information confidential. And really, confidential information is information that is covered in executive session and is to protect the organization as a whole. In executive session, and I did review this a little bit in the board meeting when I talked about executive session, right? We're covering matters that are HR related, personnel related, legal related, risk management related. Those are all topics, right, that for the protection and the health of the organization must remain confidential at that level. But beyond that, you and even Elizabeth, when Elizabeth gave her report, have done a very good job of accurately reporting what happens during the business portion of the meeting. And that is why we as a board were comfortable opening last week the business portion of the meeting, because that is information that we are very comfortable sharing with the community as a whole. So hopefully that helps. But yes, I agree with your description of what that agreement does.
It's not that we're not allowed to talk about anything, ever. We have to keep confidential information confidential, and not everything that the board discusses is confidential. Some things we can have ongoing conversations with people so that we have a better idea how to vote when the time comes for vote. If we only talk about an issue among those 17 or 20 people, we never get a feel. So it's our duty and our obligation to be well informed by the community we serve. But we are not going to say in a conversation, you know, so-and-so is against this idea. You know, so-and-so board member is all over this, and they're driving this. We are not going to say that. It's disrespectful to the activity of the board. That's why I said earlier, it's our responsibility to talk one-on-one with our board members, to develop a relationship with your board members, let your board members individually know what you are thinking, so that every board member brings those individual conversations to the board table, and to treat the board as one set of ears. It doesn't do the LPOA or any of the board's constituency any justice. So don't think that because we have a confidentiality agreement, we won't talk about anything. It's just not true. We won't talk about confidential matters, and we won't malign another board member for having the opinion that they have. Simple as that. Yes. Question. Your name and cottage, please.
Carter Bobbitt, 303 East 3rd.
Hi, Carter.
This is completely off the subject.
Okay.
But it's a question that I need an answer for.
Yeah, sure.
Like many of us here, we have Spectrum. Last week we had children and grandchildren here, and panic arose. My wife and I are not as technical as the kids, but one son, for example, does telemedicine. And that when the stuff went out and they called and said maybe it'll be back on by 8:30, he's not able to be here then. If that's going to continue. Excuse me. Now, there was an article or a thread that they picked up someplace that said that normally a cell, if I'm using the right terminology, will accommodate 4 cottages, but one cell here accommodates 15. Am I even saying that right? But is there a plan to make the internet service more operational so that my family can come visit?
I feel your pain. Charles, do you want to speak to that?
I just figure we would go back to smoke signals. That's just now. But no, that is a huge concern for us. I mean, we lost days of operations, even with us, and not able to do business. Had to go back to paper for the hotel. So that is a huge concern. With Amplex moving in, I have conspiracy theory about that one, but I won't say that here. But no. But with Amplex moving in, I think we're going to have some options. Spectrum will have to ensure they're stepping up those things. With their partnership and/or merger, I'm not sure exactly the business behind all of that with them and Verizon, but I know that the Verizon services has gone down as well. When we've inquired, they've assured us that they're rebuilding towers and doing things to ensure better services. And so we'll just have to look and see. But I think the best voice is you all as individual customers consistently calling, and even our friends on Catawba and Marblehead, to tell them to call as well, because when they know that there is a large number of customer base that will, and now that there's competition moving into the area, that's what will move the needle on those things. So please, let's continue to call, continue to make those complaints, and continue to ask for those refunds. So to do that, because that's what's going to help them move the needle faster on some of these towers. But we are working with Amplex to see about, a fiber and a fiber net over Lakeside. And so we'll continue to work with that.
Thank you, Charles.
Nancy Jacob, 443 Walnut. I did talk to Amplex a couple weeks ago, and they said, and you could see on their grid that there are certain places that have them, but they said Lakeside refused to give permission for their wires to run except in certain limited areas. And so I was wondering if that, because fiber optics would make a huge difference.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that is not true. I have not denied anything. As a matter of fact, we sat with them and tried to work through a plan, actually, to get fiber to even our buildings and then extend that opportunity to their customers. Now, where we did not move forward with them was the service to us, to the Lakeside Association, to our buildings, and because it wasn't a cost savings for us to move to them from Spectrum. So what we did is, hey, if you come back to us and say you can give us a cost savings, then of course we'll make that switch. But to my understanding, Heritage Society has Amplex, from what I was told. I'm not sure how true that is. I was just told that just this past week. But you have to talk to them. So I'm not sure where that's necessarily coming from, but I'll check on it to find out.
Phil in the back? Oh. Okay, right here in the front. I'm sorry.
Hi. Bridget Baumgartner, 710 Jasmine. Thank you so much for all your work. We're very grateful. Just as an offering in regards to election, we serve on different committees back in our hometown, and we wanted to share that electionbuddy.com or Election Buddy is an electronic mechanism that you could use that provides and assures confidentiality. It provides identity in regards to voting and instant results. It doesn't take months to do. It's just it's a very, very short time. And it offers everyone, members, whether they're present in the meeting or not, an ability to express their vote and opinion.
Thank you. One of the issues we have, I like Election Buddy. I'm familiar with it. One of the considerations we have, though, is that we don't have a non-porous way to absolutely separate members from property owners. We have a number of property owners who choose not to be members. And then we have members, and those are the people who are allowed to vote. So in our membership roster, those two groups are together. We offer non-members the opportunity to put their names in the directory. It's just a service that we do for property owners. It's not just a membership directory. So in order for us to use a system like the one you suggested, which is a good system, we have to make sure that we're non-porous on our side as well. We're not in a position to be able to offer that in October of this year, but it's definitely something that we should and do need to be working on for next year. Phil.
Yes, Phil Savage, 183 Peach. Just some specific information. Those of us that live on the east side of town, did we see all the blinking lights, red lights going on at the end of 2nd Street the other day when our internet services went out? There was a large tree on 2nd Street that broke off halfway up the trunk and fell on the Spectrum lines, and that's the reason we didn't have service. Wasn't they weren't doing their job, it was Mother Nature stepped in for a little fun.
Thank you, Phil. Anybody else have a comment or a question about anything? Well, with that, I am going to ask for a nomination to adjourn the meeting. A motion, not a nomination. I've got nominations on the brain. Yep. Alice? Do I hear a second to adjourn the meeting? Yes. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your attention today.